And you also recently you had a wonderful conference which was very 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 successful, bringing the U.S. Entrepreneurs, basically youth entrepreneurs in the American diaspora and from Africa, to come together talk about basically trying to build a bridge in terms of business between Africa and the U.S., which was very very successful. Welcome to the Progressive Mind Show once again.
Thank you so much.
I remember you contacted me and said, "Hey, Senna, we need to talk about this man," and I'm glad that you brought that up. It tells me your heart for the. I mean, you were not just talking; you were doing the talk. You know, you're walking the talk, and I really appreciate that. DJ Kenny is also here with us. He has a show here. DJ Kenny, welcome to the Progressive Mind Show.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk about Dr. Kofi Annan. It's 20 minutes past the hour of 7. It's the 28th of August in the year of 2018. Where can we start from, Dr. Kofi Annan? Dr. Kofi Annan. So a brief, I just want to read a brief bio about this legendary doctorate, wonderful man. Okay, so Dr. Kofi Annan was a Ghanaian diplomat who served as the 17th Secretary General of the United Nations from 1997 to December 26. Dr. Kofi Annan and the UN were the co-recipients of the Nobel Peace Prize in 2001. Dr. Kofi Annan also was a recipient of the J. William Fulbright Prize for International Understanding. 2001, he received that prize. He also received, in 2003, he received the Indira Gandhi Prize for profile and courage. And then in 22, he received another international global award. Dr. Kofi Annan has 3 kids, lived in Switzerland. Actually, he grew up, he schooled in Switzerland, and also obviously hails from Ghana. Please pardon me because I have to juggle between a few things here. Dr. Kofi Annan is also a board member and a leader of the Elder Group, an international group founded by Nelson Mandela. It's called the Elders. He's also the founding president of the Kofi Annan Foundation, which is situated in Ghana. Because of his many accolades and because of time, we wouldn't want to go into all of it. But let's first talk about his global impact. First of all, let me just take your 1-minute take on Dr. Kofi Annan. What do you all think of this legendary African? Dr. Kamazi, you came in late, so I'll give you, I'll let you start the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, Senna. And thank you for inviting me tonight. And also I thank your station, WGHC 98.3 Radio, and the whole team, and for the wonderful work you're doing, the impact you are making in the community. You also have to say thank you for organizing the last soccer game in terms of contributing to the violence in Chicago. We, African diaspora, also, we are concerned about what's going on in the city of Chicago. When we see our kids are being shot, killed,
right.
It affects everybody. It's not just one community, it's all of us. When one person is affected, it does affect everybody.
Right.
Wherever you are, whether north side, south side, whenever you are, we are with you. So I was pleased to be with you and the work you're doing. I really appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Coming here, remember when I gave you a call, we did have discussed about what do we do about our brother, Dr. Kofi Annan, Ghanaian born, son of Africa, also a global icon, a leader, the first black Secretary General of United Nations. First time ever in the history. So it's something. It's not something we can just pass on. Someone has passed. It's like anybody else has died. Whether you agreed with him or not, it doesn't matter. He's a son of Africa. He's a human being. He's a first our leader, a global leader. So we need to recognize him. We need to honor him. I think this is the first step. We will have another event. I think we are working on that.
Okay.
At the bigger scale.
Good.
We are here on the radio, but we will announce again when we're going to do that.
Okay.
We are working on that, and the day and the time it will be announced. So
wonderful.
Now I will not tell more details. So
no.
Now, for me, Kofi Annan is not just a UN Secretary General, also is someone which I have had the opportunity to be exposed to him when I was living in Geneva, Switzerland.
Okay.
So I lived in Switzerland. I lived in Geneva. Also, he lived in Geneva. He went to school in Switzerland. So for me, it's also personal. He's someone I have known. He went to school there, even though he went to school before. But I could go to where he used to go to school and hear about the good things he was doing while he was a student. He was a great reader. While he was a student, he left the marks where he passed. So meaning that the leadership was with him from a long time. It's not just arriving at becoming a secretary of United Nations was not an accident. He worked hard to get where he could be. So the entire African continent, the global community, recognized his contribution to the work he's done, the reason why he received these Nobel Prize, this award. So it recognized his contribution for peace, for stability, and then also maybe as we will come back to it, he came to his position as the UN Secretary General at a very critical period of time in a global world. So when we knew we just ended this Cold War between Soviet Union and the Western countries, and he came in 1997 when he became the UN Secretary General. Before that, remember, he was head of peacekeeping mission. And at the time we had Rwandan genocide, and at the time we had also Yugoslavia,
Bosnia,
this Yugoslavia war, which partitioned the nation, Yugoslavian nation, into Bosnia, Croatia, and so on and so forth. That was a very critical period of time, because everything happened when he was head of peacekeeping mission,
and then later on became the General Secretary.
That is very challenging. Remember, there was a Boutros Ghali, who was an African also, who was a son of Africa, who was could only have one mandate. When he left, Kofi Annan came in. That transition also, maybe we'll have opportunity to talk about all these. What he has achieved, also the challenges he faced.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
We would retract back a little bit and then go into a little bit into the background of this great man. So we know he went to Infantipim. Infantipim is a high school college in Ghana, and I'll leave it to you to tell us about his educational background. Kwame, you went to Infantipim as well.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about this man, his background, his educational background, and maybe his time in Ghana or Africa.
Right. So first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me here, because I know you've been trying to get me here for a long time.
Yes.
And when I got the invitation and I saw his picture, I'm like, oh my God! I mean, I have to be there, because he was an old boy, and in Infantipim school, that's what we call the old the graduates from the school, old boys. So I had to
alumni are old boys.
Alumni, old boy. So I had to honor him.
Okay.
And so thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome.
So when I started high school, 97 in Ghana. So I started February, and the January of 97, he had just become the UN Secretary General.
Yes.
So in the school, it was just everybody was talking about it. Like, it was the biggest news.
Right.
So
the old boy is
the
now
old
the ruler of the world.
And you got to understand that was about 40 years after he graduated. So there was, people had to open the archives, just to talk about him, like, what he did, the kind of person he was when he was in school.
Yeah. What was his personality? What did you hear when he was back in school as a young man?
I mean, and I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything. I'm not trying to make him seem like, he's not human. Honestly, I mean, the guy has been a leader from day one.
From day one, when
he was, yeah, like from the archives, he was from what we know, because it had been 40 years after, he graduated. So he was very smart, very smart. Like, he was in a leadership position right from jump, when he was a kid. And I knew he liked sports. I knew he liked sports too. He was also involved in student activities. I think, if I remember correctly, but don't quote me on this, but if I remember correctly, we were told that when he was in school, there was a demonstration, students demonstrating about something they did not like. Okay. And he championed their cause, the cause of it. He was out there saying, hey, you can't do this. We have rights. So, so when you go back to this, I mean, I'm thinking about the time he was probably 18 years old. Right. So fast forward, he's the UN Secretary General, still championing those causes. So, he wasn't, to him, it wasn't just a job. Second nature. Yeah, he's been doing that forever. Right. So that's what we heard about him. That's what I heard about him. So I'm not surprised, who he became or who he was.
Oh, brilliant. Right. Thanks for that wonderful submission. Again, we understand that within 2 hours, we cannot talk and divulge that completely, the life of the legendary Dr. Kofi Annan. And so please bear with us. We will do what we can. If you have anything to say, if you have any tribute to give the great man, the number is 773-942-7167. DJ Kenny, yes. What's your take on Dr. Kofi Annan? General take, and then we can go into some details.
All right. Thank you for inviting me here today. And thank you for being part of this panel to talk about a great man that Africa has. I would like to describe him as the son of Africa, who really went to the toppest leadership in the world. Okay. And this is a man, based on even just the introduction, his hobby, old boy from the same school gave, I think was born a diplomat. Yeah. I've never seen clips where I've seen Kofi probably yelling out or talking in a forceful way. He was just a calm, cool man. And talking of 1994, of what happened in Rwanda and Bosnia, I think his leadership and his role in doing that prepared him. I think a lot of things were observed and seen from that point that made him become the general secretary for UN. A man who always talks about unbalanced economic activities in the world, a man who is concerned about HIV. Of course, you can talk of economy, but if the people are not healthy, or if people are dying of disease, then what kind of economy are you going to have? So we had a very strong son of Africa, and we lost a very important son of Africa.
Wonderful. We also know that as part of his education, he had his undergrad in McMaster College. There he held the 60-yard, 100 meters, 60-yard, what do you call it, tracks record. And so it tells you that the man was not just a book long, as we will call it in Africa. He wasn't just a bookworm or just stuck in. He was also very active doing sports. At the same time, he was balancing his life with the championing, and he was the champion of human rights and what he stood for, what he believed as a gentleman, as a kid. And as my brother said, you could tell from his upbringing, right, when he was a teenager, that he was always on the forefront when it came to human rights. Dr. Olivier, Mr. Kamanzi, you started submission and you mentioned something with regards to his time when he came in, the critical time that he came in, what the world was going through. So let's go into his impact on international politics, on global politics. At the time, we know that Bosnia situation was going on. I think President Clinton was the president of America then.
1994.
Yeah.
So and then the Bosnia was 1995.
Yeah, so that was the era. So give us a little detail about how critical it was for him and what you think he did to mitigate the situation, to create a better society that we currently have now.
Thank you, Senna. I think there is a video I sent you.
Yes.
If maybe you find the time, if it was possible to
Play a little bit of
his
it.
voice.
Okay.
So him himself, he's talking about that specific period of time. That was interview he gave on a BBC. We focus specifically on Rwanda genocide. Also, he also took some time to talk about the Yugoslavia, the war in Balkany, so as they said. So that was because when everything started, he was not UN Secretary General. He was head of United Nations peacekeeping mission.
Right.
So the position he held over many years. And that period of time, if you can, some of maybe